Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into, well, the really intricate world of crime and justice in India. We'll be unpacking the latest trends, some of the hidden challenges, and also the surprising efforts being made to push back.
Absolutely.
And just to, really grasp the scale of what we're talking about here, think about this. In 2024, India saw financial losses from cyber fraud just skyrocket, an astonishing 206% increase.
Wow.
Yeah, crossing R's 22,845 crore. I mean, that's not just a statistic, right? It's a huge signal of how crime is changing, evolving really rapidly.
It absolutely is. And this deep dive today, it's really our mission to try and synthesize a whole range of sources. We've got detailed crime reports, cross-sectional studies, analyses of organized crime, even potential tech solutions.
Right.
We want to cut through the noise, find the most important insights, really understand these complex issues, and shed some light on what these trends actually mean for you, the listener, and, well, for India's society and economy as a whole.
Okay, so let's start by setting the scene a bit. What does the overall crime landscape in India actually look like right now? Globally, I saw one report put India at 77th, with a crime rate around 44.6.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you dig into the National Crime Records Bureau, the NCRB, their report for 2024 gives a rate of 445.9 incidents per 100,000 people.
Which is quite different.
Yeah, it is. It's actually a slight dip from 2023, but still up from 422.2 back in 2022. What really jumps out, though, I think, is just the sheer volume of cases the police are dealing with.
Oh, God bless.
Between 2017 and 2021, the total number of cases needing investigation, it surged from about, 8.25 million up to over 10 million?
That's a massive increase. And, to really understand those numbers, it helps to know how crimes are actually categorized in India. They're broadly split into what are called cognizable and non-cognizable crimes.
Right, cognizable and non-cognizable.
Yeah. So cognizable offenses, they're the serious ones where police can arrest without a warrant. They can start investigating right away. These are typically crimes under the Indian Penal Code, the IPC, or various special and local laws, the SLLs.
Okay.
Non-cognizable offenses, on the other hand, they're less severe. The police usually need a court order to investigate. So often the victim has to kind of kickstart the legal process themselves.
That distinction feels pretty key, yeah. And when we look at the types of crimes seeing big shifts, the digital world, it really seems to be front and center. Cybercrime, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
It saw this huge jump, over 60%, just between 2014 and 2017. And the main things seem to be financial fraud, phishing attacks, identity theft, the usual suspects, I guess.
Exactly. And while cybercrime definitely grabs the headlines, we really can't ignore these persistent sort of societal issues. Crimes against women, for example, they've shown a really concerning, consistent rise. Rape cases up 1.1%, overall crimes against women up 4% in 2024. And those high-profile cases, like the Delhi gang rape or the Hathras case in 2020, they didn't just cause public outrage, they really forced a national conversation, didn't they?
They absolutely did. And we've also seen shifts in violent crimes. Murder rates, they fluctuated a bit, but climbed to over 29,000 cases in 2020.
Right.
Uttar Pradesh had the highest number of actual cases, but Delhi had the highest murder rate. That's an important difference, often tied to population density, right?
Precisely. And population density often correlates with other factors, too.
And kidnappings, they also saw a pretty notable surge, 5.1% in recent years. But maybe surprisingly, despite all these alarming increases, things like theft, robbery, and assault, they're still actually the most common crimes reported in India.
It's true. What's really fascinating, though, is when you start connecting these trends to the bigger picture, you see how much location matters. Urban areas pretty consistently report higher crime rates than rural areas.
Which maybe isn't totally unexpected.
No, not entirely, given population density, economic disparities, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But if we zoom in, look at Bengaluru. It stands out with the highest rate of cybercrime.
Right.
And it's also dealing with a huge volume of these overall IPC and SLL cases. Over 163,000 cases registered just in 2021. Though to be fair, they do have a relatively strong charge sheeting rate, about 79%.
Okay. And Mumbai. That provides an incredibly stark and frankly heartbreaking case study, particularly on gender-based violence deaths. There was a deep dive into 5 years of data, May 2017 to April 2022. It found 181 such fatalities. But what's truly disturbing is where they happened. A staggering 99% occurred in homes or private spaces.
99%.
Yeah, and 77% were in urban areas. Most victims, 67%, were married. Nearly half, 45%, were young, in the 15-29 age group.
That's devastating.
It is, and burns were the main injury in almost 60% of cases. The leading reasons given for the deaths: marriage-related problems, 58%, and family issues, 29%.
So overwhelmingly domestic.
Exactly. And in 61% of the cases where they identified a perpetrator, it was the husband or an intimate partner. These figures just powerfully show that for so many women, the biggest danger isn't out on the street. It's tragically within their own homes.
Those numbers are just,
Yeah.
yeah, truly sobering. And then you have Delhi, often called the crime capital, at least at times, because of sharp rises in certain crimes.
Right.
And there, the crime rates clearly correlate with population growth, the number of vehicles on the road, just general human mobility. Districts like East, Northeast, and South Delhi consistently show higher crime rates.
Whereas Central and New Delhi feel safer.
Exactly. Perceived as safer, largely due to better infrastructure, maybe more visible policing.
Yeah.
It's also interesting how people perceive specific locations, transit hubs like bus stops, railway stations, seen as crime-prone, especially sort of 100 to 500 meters away from them.
But not metro stations.
Metro stations are actually seen as safer, probably because of all the surveillance, the CCTV.
Okay, so these statistics paint a really broad, complex picture. But to really get under the skin of India's crime landscape, we need to peel back the layers, right? Look at why these trends are happening. What are the deeper drivers? Socioeconomic? Systemic?
Well, what's fascinating here is just how complex the interplay is between those socioeconomic and cultural factors. Take rapid urbanization and industrialization. On one hand, it signals progress, right?
Yeah.
But it's also led to a breakdown of traditional social structures. And this often creates new kinds of inequality, significant unemployment, especially among young people. And some, maybe out of desperation, might turn to crime just to survive.
And you see the growth of slums, too.
Exactly. Unchecked growth of slums, often lacking basic services, which can unfortunately become sort of breeding grounds for criminal activity.
And it's not just about sheer desperation, is it? Poverty, lack of jobs. They can fundamentally shape someone's choices. It can push them towards crime and often, tragically, towards things like drug abuse, too.
Absolutely. And gender inequality. That plays such a significant systemic role. The deep-seated discrimination, the marginalization of women, it's often made worse by cultural norms like dowry or child marriage.
And that directly fuels the violence.
It directly contributes to that persistent increase in violence against women we talked about. And it severely limits their ability to advance socially and economically.
Which then raises the big question, how well are the systems designed to actually curb crime working? Our sources seem to point to some pretty significant weaknesses in law enforcement.
They do. We see things like pervasive corruption, police reportedly taking bribes, for instance. Disturbing incidents of police brutality, too.
Right.
Then there's the cybersecurity infrastructure, which seems quite vulnerable. There was that major data breach in 2020. And historically, issues with intelligence gathering coordination, like those highlighted after the 2008 Mumbai attacks.
And resources are stretched thin.
Very thin. India has a relatively low number of police officers per person per capita, and a significant deficit in its intelligence bureau. It just stretches everything.
And then there's the judicial system, which seems to be under immense pressure. India's legal framework is famously complex, lengthy, and it leads to this massive backlog of cases.
Massive is the word. Think about this. In 2021, an astonishing 85.38% of cases were pending from the previous year, just carried over.
85%.
Yeah. And to put that in context, India ranks 79th out of 139 countries in the World Justice Project's Rule of Law Index in 2021. That signals a major challenge in actually delivering timely justice.
What's driving that backlog? Is it just complexity?
Well, complexity is part of it, but a critical issue is limited judicial resources. There are only about 20 judges per million people. The courts are just completely overburdened.
20 per million. Wow.
Yeah. And that leads to these profound delays, which, disproportionately hit marginalized communities, people who often lack the resources to navigate such a slow system.
And the conditions within the system.
Well, prisons are often severely overcrowded, sometimes with subhuman conditions reported. It reflects the strain on the whole infrastructure. And then there's outdated technology, still relying on manual record keeping, slow data processing. It just adds to the inefficiency.
Plus the appeals process.
Right. Lengthy appeal processes, multiple levels. It just prolongs everything. And there's generally a lack of alternative dispute resolution, things like mediation or arbitration. So more and more cases just get funneled into that already strained court system. It just makes the problem worse.
So beyond individual crimes and these systemic weaknesses, we also have this formidable, almost shadowy presence of organized crime.
Definitely.
The Global Organized Crime Index gave India a criminality score of 5.75 and a resilience score of 5.42. Can you unpack those scores a bit?
Sure. So the criminality score, it's on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is the highest prevalence. A 5.75 suggests organized crime is pretty widespread. The resilience score, 5.42, measures the country's capacity to actually fight back against it.
So significant crime, but maybe moderate resilience.
That's a fair way to put it. It suggests a really significant and ongoing challenge. And several major criminal markets are really flourishing in India.
Like what?
Well, human trafficking is a deeply concerning issue right across South Asia. India acts as a source country, a transit route, and a destination. We're talking women, children, even men trafficked for forced labor, sexual exploitation.
And corruption plays a role there, too.
Reports suggest police corruption. Yeah, and things like debt bondage often make it worse. The porous borders, especially with Nepal and Bangladesh, particularly in West Bengal, they unfortunately become hotspots for this trade.
And drug trafficking. You mentioned India's location earlier.
Exactly. Its strategic location, sandwiched between the Golden Crescent and Golden Triangle opium regions, makes it a major hub. Heroin, cocaine, cannabis, synthetic drugs, they all flow through.
How are they moving it?
The sea corridor has emerged as a new kind of preferred smuggling route. And disturbingly, these drug syndicates are getting smarter using cryptocurrencies. The dark web makes them much harder to trace.
And it's not just drugs, right? Illicit trade in resources.
Oh, absolutely. It's widespread. Gold, for instance. Hundreds of tons smuggled annually, often from conflict zones. And it's financed through the Hawala system, that informal, often untraceable money transfer network.
Right, Hawala.
Then there's the illegal sand trade. Our sources indicate that's controlled by this powerful nexus: contractors, politicians, corrupt officials, all involved. And illegal coal mining by mafias is also a big concern, especially in places like Jharkhand.
And arms trafficking fits in how?
It often goes hand in hand with the drug trade. Insurgent groups, for example, might use drug money to buy weapons. Delhi apparently is reported to be a key transit point for illegal guns. And alarmingly, sources say illicit arms factories have even popped up around the national capital region.
So who are the players in all this? Is it just local networks?
It's complex. Our sources point to sophisticated criminal networks operating across various illicit markets. But we also see involvement from low-level state officials in things like poaching, illegal mining, arms trafficking.
They're mafia groups.
Yeah, mafia-style groups have a profound impact, not just on security, but even on politics. They notoriously use violence to try and sway elections. And we're seeing a growing presence of foreign actors, too, especially from West Africa, who are increasingly dominating the drug trafficking scene in India.
Okay, that's a pretty comprehensive and, yes, sobering look at the challenges. Let's pivot now. Let's shift focus and explore what's actually being done. What kind of modern approaches are emerging to tackle these really deep-rooted issues?
Right. Well, traditionally, the solutions have mostly focused on, strengthening law enforcement, more people, better training, better equipment.
The usual things.
The usual things, yeah.
Yeah.
Plus a strong emphasis on addressing those socioeconomic factors we discussed: job creation, education, and reforming the justice system itself to try and reduce reoffending recidivism.
But now technology is playing a much bigger role.
Hugely. Here's where it gets really interesting. Technology is stepping in as a powerful new tool.
How so?
Well, for crime prevention, things like data analysis and predictive policing are becoming really powerful. By analyzing historical crime data, maybe integrating demographic info, economic data, even social media trends, authorities can now actually forecast crime hotspots.
Predict where crime might happen.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
And deploy resources preemptively. Then there's deep learning for facial recognition. Applied to CCTV feeds, it allows for quick detection, identification, potentially cross-referencing against massive databases like UIDI for matches.
That sounds like a massive leap in investigative power. And for cybersecurity, which we mentioned right at the start, that seems crucial too.
Absolutely. Critical Information Protection, or CIP, is vital there. This means doing comprehensive risk assessments for critical infrastructure, adopting strong cybersecurity frameworks, having rapid incident response plans ready.
And securing the supply chain.
Exactly. Protecting those vital sectors from really sophisticated cyber threats.
And what about making the courts themselves more efficient? Technology must be helping there too.
Oh, definitely. Digital solutions are really transforming the court system. Electronic filing systems, for example. They allow 247 submission and access to court documents. That drastically cuts down paperwork and processing time.
Makes sense.
Case management software helps centralize all the case information, documents, deadlines, makes everything much more organized and accessible. And AI, artificial intelligence, is making real inroads.
AI in courts. How?
Well, AI-powered legal research platforms using natural language processing, NLP, they can speed up research massively, automate document review, identify key information, flag important issues much, much faster than a human researcher ever could.
So it's clear the government isn't just, standing still. They've launched some pretty significant initiatives, especially against cyber fraud, right?
Absolutely. The Citizen Financial Cyber Fraud Reporting and Management System, CFCFRMS, has been incredibly successful. Reportedly saved over Rs 5,489 crore in potential losses.
That's huge.
It is. And they've blocked, over 9.4 lakh SIM cards and 2.6 lakh IMEI numbers linked to cyber fraud, basically cutting off the communication lines for criminals.
What else?
They've also set up a suspect registry. It's flagged over 24 lakh mule accounts used to funnel dirty money, and that's prevented an estimated Rs 4,631 crore in further fraud just by freezing those pathways.
Wow.
And there's this thing called the Prati-BIM module. It's a cutting-edge tool that actually maps out cybercriminal networks. It's led to thousands of arrests, helping to dismantle these operations.
And beyond cybercrime.
Well, India maintains a pretty strong focus on international cooperation, combating terrorism, cross-border crime, actively engaging in extradition processes, mutual legal assistance treaties with other countries. And, we should acknowledge the conservation successes, too.
Like tigers and rhinos.
Exactly. Strong laws, dedicated projects, they've led to a significant rise in tiger and rhino populations, despite all the ongoing challenges from wildlife trafficking. It shows progress is possible.
Okay, so while we're seeing definite progress, impressive initiatives, where does India still need to improve? What are the persistent hurdles that remain?
Yeah, there are definitely still significant hurdles. The persistent issue of corruption, particularly at lower government levels, that remains a major block.
Right.
Our sources also point to this blurring line between organized crime and politics. And there are concerns about alleged selective enforcement of measures, who gets targeted and who doesn't.
And the judiciary.
Judicial independence still faces challenges, sometimes from executive interference, and that ongoing shortage of judges, combined with inadequate infrastructure. It just keeps contributing to that massive case backlog we talked about earlier.
And what about support for victims?
That's a real gap. India currently doesn't have a specific dedicated witness or victim protection law, and delays in getting compensation to victims are pretty common. Also, a really critical point from our sources is the lack of an overarching national prevention strategy against organized crime. Efforts seem to remain fragmented rather than part of a cohesive nationwide plan.
And civil society's role, NGOs and such.
That's another area of concern. There are reported government restrictions on NGO funding and registration, which have apparently impacted thousands of organizations working on human rights, accountability, even as some, like those bravely highlighting the sand mafia issue, continue their crucial work.
That brings us to public perception, doesn't it? Because how the public sees these issues often shapes how they're tackled. What did the survey show?
It's quite interesting. A survey we looked at revealed that poverty is widely seen by the public as the #1 cause of increased crime.
Okay, poverty.
Yeah. Interestingly, most juvenile crimes are perceived as being pretty petty, not that serious. Yet, almost paradoxically, young people are also widely seen as being a major part of the overall crime problem.
That is a bit of a contradiction.
It is. And quite tellingly, public opinion seems to suggest that punishments for offenders are generally seen as not very effective in actually curbing crime.
So, less faith in punishment as a deterrent.
Seems that way. Yeah.
Okay, so to try and bring this all together, India is facing this incredibly complex, constantly evolving set of crime challenges, driven by this dynamic mix of, deep-seated socioeconomic issues, systemic weaknesses in law enforcement and justice, and the rapid rise of new criminal enterprises, especially things like cyber fraud.
Right.
And while the judicial system is clearly struggling under the weight of that massive backlog, we are seeing significant efforts. We're seeing innovative tech solutions being explored, being implemented, trying to tackle these issues head on.
So when you think about how interconnected all this is, crime linking to urban planning, digital literacy, social equality, even global organized networks, what really stands out most to you from all this?
That's a great question. And maybe here's a final provocative thought for you, the listener, to consider. If addressing those root causes, poverty, unemployment, gender inequality, alongside really robust law enforcement and deep judicial reform, if that's truly the key, how might a more equitable, more digitally literate society in India fundamentally reshape its battle against crime over the next decade?